Hezbollah militants moving in certain areas, things that Israel has called violations of this. So this has been a tenuous ceasefire, and it has largely held up because Hezbollah, for now at least, seems to have made the calculus that it is not prepared to return to the pre-ceasefire state, with rockets flying in one direction and very heavy Israeli airstrikes hitting Lebanese territory. So this is a very delicate moment, and certainly a moment of escalation. We just don't know exactly where it will go from here. Beyond Hussein.
Jeremy Diamond reporting for us live. Thank you.
Returning to Kyiv, the European leaders delivered a show of support for Ukraine during a summit in Paris on Thursday, as Vladimir Putin makes it clear he wants the Ukrainian president removed from power.
Yeah, the Russian president called for a, quote, temporary administration in Ukraine as the two nations work toward reaching an agreement to resolve the ongoing conflict. The White House responded, saying governance in Ukraine is determined by its constitution and the people of the country.
Across Ukraine, 3 years of war has filled graveyards with slain soldiers and left maternity wards quiet as couples have fewer children, sending the birth rate actually to an all-time low.
And in short, Ukraine may be losing an entire generation to the war. Clarissa Ward reports.
Baby Mark is just hours old, but his mother, Ophelia, waited years for this moment. Probably the war was the only thing stopping us from having a baby, she tells us. My husband is in the army and talked about kids for 4 years, and then the war started, and it wasn't time for kids.
Do you feel it's sort of your duty?
I think yes, she says. They are destroying us, our nation. Odessa, like all of Ukraine, is in the grips of a demographic crisis. It can be felt in the heavy silence of these hallways.
This is definitely one of the quietest maternity hospitals that I've ever visited, and the main doctor just told us that births here are down 40% since the start of the war.
According to official statistics, it happens every day. As soon as we set up checkpoints and start working, the Odessa telegram channels inform locals about this, he says. And there are no people on the streets. Everyone runs away. It's not hard to see why. Everyone here has lost someone. 3 years of war with Russia has ravaged Ukraine's male adult population. The section of Odessa's main graveyard designated for military burials is a sea of flags and tombstones. Fresh plots have been dug, ready for the war's newest victims. Here, funerals are near daily, often held in batches of 2 or 3. Every detail is perfectly choreographed. The city has had plenty of practice to get it right. The mother of 23-year-old Anton Sidorko weeps over the body of her son. My sunshine, you won't shine anymore for me. You won't come and say, Mama, I'm here, she sobs. I won't see you again. You are far away, so far away. For those who give life, the pain of losing that life too great to bear. Back at the maternity hospital, Ophelia's husband has come to fetch her and baby Mark. He asked we not show his face. Grow big and strong, the nurse says as she hands him the baby. Come back to us for a sister. But he will be heading back to the front in just over a week. And Ukraine's population will never recover until there is peace. Clarissa Ward, CNN, Odessa.
leg, baby.
Did you use fentanyl after you found out you were pregnant?
Pete Baldwin on the front lines of America's fentanyl crisis.
You keep saving the same people over and over, and until you get them into treatment, you're not changing anything.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, Monday on CNN.
There are amazing things that are happening all over the world, things that can make our lives better. That's the goal of my podcast, to try and find the secrets to a longer and happier and healthier life, and then we bring those secrets to you. Listen to Chasing Life, Ready with your podcasts.
On Laura Coates Live, we cover it all.
Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court? I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice? All the news, all on Laura Coates Live, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
I'm Mike Valerio, across the river from North Korea, and this is CNN.
To the chocolate smith's factory in Newcastle in Northern England, let me live out a childhood dream. Welcome to the chocolate factory. And learn a little bit about what it takes to run a handmade chocolate business. It looks so good. It's gonna
You always do English.
Life
is more exciting.
Are you surprised that this works?
What did you do?
Everyone has a social media strategy, but for you it's become a lifeline.
You can see the biscuit.
Obviously, you've got to make sure you've got a very good product as well. But initially, that first
Went to the
investment
library.
in your business
You
that
don't do
that
library, you
customer
go to
or follower makes is based
So
on
what did you do?
information about you. Confidence to CBS has grown to 20 employees, churning out 200,000 bars a year, all small batch and customer driven.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
Welcome back to One World. I'm Jane Asher. And I'm Bianca Gordillo. Let's return to our breaking news this hour. Rescue efforts are underway after Friday's powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit Southeast Asia. The Thai minister says more than 100 people are still trapped under the rubble of a collapsed building in Bangkok, and at least 8 people are dead.
Meantime, Myanmar state television says at least 144 people are dead there in the country. The military government is calling for blood donations. The World Health Organization says the damage from the quake is enormous. CNN's weather team is closely following today's tragic events in Myanmar and Thailand. And here's meteorologist Derek Van Dam.
Look, we got some other extraordinary video coming out of Bangkok as well. This is one of the many high-rises that are really pre-positioned in a way to absorb earthquake activity just like this. Notice the pool at the top of this high-rise building, and look at the water sloshing back and forth and spilling over the edges. Sometimes in these newly constructed buildings, they actually utilize pools at the tops of these high-rises to dampen earthquake activity. It is acting as it's supposed to in this particular situation, and I just find this type of video extraordinary to show you the engineering feats that are in play here for these earthquake-prone areas. But of course, we've seen the not-so-fortunate buildings that have collapsed, the pancaking effect from the violent shaking that has occurred from this magnitude 7.7. So we're going to recap for people who are just now tuning in, following this major breaking news of a significant earthquake that struck the central portions of Myanmar, 7.7. This happened roughly around 12:50 in the afternoon local time on March 28th. But what's interesting to note is the depth of this earthquake, and I'm going to explain why. That is a shallow natured earthquake, and that is significant. Don't need to be an expert to really understand this. The fact that it is so shallow, it is near the surface, the shaking is going to ripple out in all directions. So it will be more felt towards the surface versus if this was a deeper focal point of an earthquake, that means that the ground would absorb the shaking. Unfortunately, that results in significant damage in the locations where people live. So there's three different types of fault lines that traverse the entire planet. There's the normal fault lines that separate during an earthquake, a reverse type of fault line, but what took place here in Myanmar is known as a strike slip. So the Saigon fault runs parallel right through Myanmar. If you look at a map on the USGS website, you can see it. This actually moves about 18 millimeters per year. So in the course of a decade, it moves about 7 inches. So let's say you were to build a fence across this very fault line here in Myanmar, for instance. In 10 years' time, you would have a 7-inch separation just by the pure nature of its movement over time. Remember, 18 millimeters per year sounds like a little, but that's quite significant because there's a lot of pent-up energy that is associated with that strike-slip motion that I showed you on the graphics a moment ago. So that explodes or erupts into a significant earthquake at some point in time. It just happened to be about 6 hours ago. Look at the number of people that felt the shaking. Just incredible. Nearly 90 million people felt at least light to weak shaking. But when we're talking about the real serious business stuff, the severe to violent shaking, several million people in and around the epicenter here felt the shaking, and you bet there will certainly continue to be aftershocks going forward, and we need to brace ourselves for a high fatality event, especially when we compare this to previous similar events, and I'm thinking about 2023 in Turkey.
Many thanks, Tommy Rogers, Derek Van Dam, for that report.
And still to come on One World, the continued fallout from U.S. attack plans against Yemen being leaked. What the Trump administration is saying about the messaging app at the center of the leak.
Welcome to Angola, the undiscovered, the pristine, arriving to expansive, vibrant cities, vast and ever-growing, onto deserts, waterfalls, and wild beauty. A breathtaking game waiting for you. Angola, ready for discovery.
Soaring into the skies and beyond, a new architectural marvel beckons in the heart of Dubai. Burj Azizi, the world's second tallest tower. Ambitious, glamorous, sensational. Standing 725 meters tall, a multi-layered universe not narrates the story of breaking records and creating history. A 7-star hotel converging cultures of the globe. Penthouses and residences to live an elevated life. The world's highest observation deck, cinema, nightclub and spa. Luxury redefined with world-class restaurants, a sky pool, fitness centers and more. This is not just a tower, it's the future standing tall. Burj Azizi, amazing on every level.
Gateway Towers is your DC6, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
Live from the center of the political universe, Capitol Hill. My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you choose what you're trying to achieve? We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
For in-depth political coverage and analysis, and reach behind the scenes. Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
This is a very large earthquake, capable of causing extreme damage.
We're starting to get a better idea of just how it's going to be that powerful magnitude 7.7 quake. The military junta says at least 144 people have been killed and more than 700 injured. It also made a rare appeal for international aid.
And in Thailand's capital, Bangkok, more than 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter, search and rescue teams are working to reorganize homes through the rubble of a building that collapsed in the quake. 8 people are confirmed dead, dozens more are missing. We'll have other updates for you in about 10 minutes.